Well, hello my beautiful people, welcome back to my channel if you're returning, and if you are new, welcome to you as well. This is Christine, your DIY craftaholic. In this video I have compiled 30 Christmas projects or DIYs for you to enjoy, so let's jump in. Now DIY number 1, this is a wooden lantern from Dollar Tree. And I'll be painting it with some Waverly plaster and some apple barrel candy apple. And here I just started painting without even taping off the areas that I didn't want the white paint to get on. And it wasn't after I was done painting I realized that I should have taped it off. So here I'm going in now with some washi tape to tape down the areas that I don't want to get the red paint on. No, I didn't remove the string, I left it as is. And after I finished painted, here I am now just removing the washi tape. Now these gold rub-on letters I had for some time now, and I selected the word joy, and I'm just going to rub that on one side. And once I got that on, I went over it with some Mod Podge just to seal everything in. This is holly berry garland and I just plucked off 2 of the leaves as well as 1 of the berry. And I'm just gluing down the leaves at the top of the opening where the light can show through. And this is just for further embellishment. And it's done. DIY number 2. This is a pack of DIY wood dies from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint them with 2 coats of white Waverly chalk paint. And this is how I had to paint. I painted one side and dried it properly, and then after I dried it properly I gave it the second coat. And why I did it like that is because I had to be holding it in my hand to paint it, and I had no way of painting without messing up the part that was already painted. So the part that I painted and dried, I placed that down, and that allowed me to paint the rest of the sides. And after I painted all 3 and they were dried, here I am going in with a little black ink chalk paint to just distress the sides or the edges. Now that they were dried, I'm moving on to this part. I absolutely love this part. Purchased this pack of water slide paper from Amazon, and I printed off a lot of different sayings, different words that I wanted to use. And here I'm just trying to pick the right size word that will fit on the surface of the dies. And the words I selected was joy, Noel, and hope, in no particular order. And then I placed some Mod Podge on all of the dies before I actually start putting down the word. And then I placed it in a little water, let it soak for about 30 seconds. And if you want to see how I first started using this decal paper, it's in this video that I'll link above. So once I soak that down, I am using a tweezer to just remove the underpiece, and then a piece of napkin to just remove the excess water from it. Here I am trimming down the edges of the paper, and that is because I don't want too much to be left on it after I place it on, but that can be tricky too. So if it works for you, just leave it as a square when you cut it out and not trim around the words, because it can be very hard to remove the underpiece. And I did that for all 3. And here is my joy, hope, and Noel sign. Now we're on to DIY number 3. These are 2 mini rolling pins that I had already in my stash. I got these from Woodpecker's Craft. And I painted both with some Waverly white chalk paint. And on the outside of the pins, and here I'm using my small paintbrush and just carefully painting red candy apple. And then I went over that with a little Mod Podge. And here again I am doing my water slide decal, and I'm using the word Merry and Believe. And made 2 small bows. I got these this ribbon from BB Craft. My BB Craft affiliate link is in my description box below if you're interested in getting any of these ribbons. And here it is. DIY number 4. I got this from Dollar Tree when Dollar Tree was $1, so this is $1. And I'm going to paint, but before I painted it, because it's shiny, I went over it with a little Mod Podge and dried that. And then I went in now with some Waverly white chalk paint on both sides. This is a piece of red ribbon that I had in my stash. I got that from the 89-cent store 2 years ago. And here I am again with water slide decal. And I selected the words Merry and Christmas. I am gluing down the ribbon. So I folded the end at the back, or what is gonna be the back, glue that down and then snip off the excess and folded that end down and glued that on top of the one that was already there. And then I made a little bow from the same red ribbon and then just wrapped a piece of that around the red. If you're enjoying the content so far, go ahead and hit that like button. That helps YouTube to promote this video so more viewers like yourself can find my channel. And then I had 2 of these little lamb's ear leaves and I just glued that on and this is done. There you have it. I love it. I love how the little bit of green just made it pop. I just took my white chalk paint and I'm just writing on some words. Jingle all the way. I'm using this truck cutout. So here I'm showing you how I'll be painting the black for the wheels, the red for the body of the truck, and this paint set that I got from Dollar Tree. So I took the black paint and I painted the wheels. I had actually traced out the sections off camera. I took also the pencil and traced out that little star. And then I took the red, painted the body of the truck. And took the green and painted the tree. Have the tree hanging over the truck, but then after I painted it, I didn't like how it looked. And so I painted it over, and because the paint is 2 different kind of paints, it left that little dark shadow, but I decided to work with it. I actually liked how it looked. And to cover the wheels, I took the black paint and just went over that. And then to put a little highlight over the black, I took some white paint with a small flat tip brush and just brush that over the black and just make it pop. And for the inside, I'm now painting in the spokes for the wheels. And now that's all done. I took some Mod Podge and a makeup sponge and I'm just applying some sheen over this as a sealant. And now that is done, the star at the top, I took the red paint pen and I colored that in. And these little stars I got in a pack from Temu. You'll see more of those coming up in a little bit. But I took the gold marker and I painted that, and it fit perfectly on top of that star. Now this is one of the Dollar Tree calendar thumbnail. I cut that one out that says Farm Fresh Christmas Trees. And this is one of Dollar Tree stickers. Now this had a lot of glitter, and to tone that down I just put some Mod Podge on top of that, remove the little sticker thing at the back and use hot glue to place that right there to cover the hole. And then to add further embellishment, I took a small craft sticks and stained that with some antique wax. Clipped off both ends and just applied some hot glue and wood glue to give a barrier to the tree. Now these are the stars. I'm going to be placing them on the Christmas tree. So I'm kind of just laying them out as to how I wanted them. And then I painted some red and I left some plain, or I believe I painted them in gold, I'm not sure. But I'm just using some wood glue to glue those on. And now that is all done. I did go in with the paint markers and painted out the edges for the truck with the black and the red. And now I want it to stand. It can actually stand on its own, but you know, it's gonna topple over. So I took 2 small wooden cubes and glued those at the back of the wheels with some hot glue and wood glue. And now I believe my little truck is done. I love it. You guys will have to let me know what you think. This is a wooden snowman and I think he is so cute. So I gave it a base coat of white, and then I took the black paint pen and painted in his hat. And I'm giving him red mittens with the red paint. And then took the green marker and gave end of his mitten. And then I took the black marker and I'm painting in eyes, mouth, and the orange I used for his nose, his little carrot nose. This is a Christmas tree skirt. And I just use a roller cutter and cut off a small piece, and this is gonna be his scarf. Wrap that around his neck. And because the scarf is gonna be covering that top button, I decided to add another one at the bottom. And then of course I took the paint pen and added a band around his hat. And our little snowman is done. Oh, I love him, he's so cute. Now I'm making a Christmas village. These are wooden Christmas trees, and this is how I'll be painting them. And of course you guys know I love two-sided or reversible things. So those two, the black and the red, going to be covering the red with this buffalo check from Dollar Tree, and the black and white one as well. So I cut those out, placing that on the reverse side. And in case you're wondering, that's my coffee mug in the corner right there. I had to have some coffee. For the black, I used what was left of pieces that I had used before and just joined that. And then when I place that on, I use the emery board to file off the edge. So now that's fixed. I am now ready to proceed with the next step. This is one of Dollar Tree's rulers. This comes in a pack of 2. And I cut off a piece, measured it, and painted it with some of the black chalk paint. And this is 2 wooden tumbling tower blocks that I also painted. And to cover that hole, I used some hot glue and then painted over it with some of the paint and dried it a little bit. And then applied the tumbling tower blocks, because these are going to be serving as the feet for this little stand. And then I'm just using a little white paint to distress it, tone down the starkness of the black, and distress the trees to let them pop just a little bit more. And if you would like to find me on social media, my social media links are linked in my Linktree address in my description box. Be sure to check that out. And then I had some small wooden beads. I cut them in halves, and I'm going to be painting them because those are going to serve as the ornaments on these trees. So I just took a piece of masking tape and turned it the sticky side up. I'm putting down the beads on top of that. I use my miter shear to cut them in halves. And here I'm going to be using some green paint, red paint, and some of this metallic gold paint from Folk Art. And then after I painted them and they dried, I glossed them over with some Mod Podge and then dried them with a little heat. And then here I'm just removing them and placing them on the tree just to see how I wanted them and try to place them evenly. And once I placed them down and knew where I wanted them, I'm now gluing them on with some hot glue. And here they are done. Now I took the dry chippy brush and I'm just going over them to remove all the glue webs. Now we're ready to glue our trees on our stand. Now for the green one, because that didn't have anything at the other side, took the black furniture marker and wrote home and just went along the sides with some line or strokes for further embellishment. And here I'm just putting them down and where I needed them to stand properly, and then just use the hot glue and wood glue to secure them on. For the other side, so I took 2 of my little burlap ribbons and I glued those on the black and the red, and my little Christmas tree village is complete. Now here they are, guys. Now this is one of those little merry and bright Christmas sign from Dollar Tree, and I took some white paint, acrylic white paint, and I'm going to be painting the border. Now I didn't want to do too much with this, so I'm going to take some of that red candy apple paint, and before I painted it, I taped off the areas that I didn't want to get the paint on. And here I am just going in with the red paint, and I'm carefully putting down a coat, and then after that I gave it another coat. So it started lifting when I was removing the tape, so I just decided to use the same tape that I lifted off and just take it off, because at this point it wasn't staying and there was no point in leaving it there. I had to go back to the drawing board. So I took some of my red gingham ribbon that I got from BB Craft, and I decided to just glue that down in the middle of the red border or the gingham border that was already there. So I took some Eileen's tacky glue and glued that down. I didn't use the hot glue because the hot glue would have left it lumpy. And then once I glued that down, I then took my jute cord, made a little bow, and then just took the lighter and burned off the little fuzzies. And here I am trying to decide, do I need it at the side at the top, or do I need it under the merry and bright? And I think I settled for the merry and bright. And glue that down. And this is it. Now let me know what you think. Now this is a large monogram sign with the letter L. As usual, a lot of Dollar Tree signs are filled with glitter, so I'm using some Glue Gun to remove that, and I will also remove the paper. I didn't show this part, but I soaked it with a napkin. I just placed the soaked napkin over the paper and then left it to soak. And then after it was soaked, I'm now using the scraper tool to remove that as well as the glitter. And then after I removed them, I then took the sanding block and sanded it down. And then here I'm using the same red candy apple barrel candy apple paint to paint over the letter L. And here it is, all dried. Now, so as not to get any white paint on the area that I just painted, I'm going to use some washi tape to cover the red border. And I gave that 2 coats of the white paint, and now it's all dried. Now I want to give it some shiplap lines, so I'm taking my ruler and I'm measuring out evenly the spaces that I want to put the line. And I then took the furniture marker from Dollar Tree. I think this one is the mahogany. But they come in a pack of 3, and I'm just tracing lines from the top to the bottom, evenly spaced. And then I just went in and just kind of sketched in the line a little bit more. I got this mistletoe pick from Walmart, so I took that along with some lamb's ear that I had, and I just make a swag. But before I glued it on, I then took some Mod Podge and applied that over the board. And then dried it with the heat gun. I can't tell you how much I appreciate having this heat gun. I decided to place my very trusted gingham black and white ribbon at the top. And then to cover the hole, I took some spackle and just covered that and dried it. And then here I am going in now to just glue down the swag on top of that. Now I had this bow from last year. I love this ribbon from Dollar Tree. And I just took that, glued it on top. Now this is a made up wreath with a little pine cone and some berries that is glued on the top. Now I got this in a bag of about 16 handmade wreaths in different sizes from the thrift store. So I took this small one and just glued that right in the center of the bow. And this one is done. I love it. Red is one of my favorite colors. I just love how the red is popping on top of this white. This is a large ornament from Dollar Tree. Off camera, days before, I took my miter share and I cut these wooden beads in halves. I got these from Woodpecker's Craft. So I took the glue gun again and I'm removing the glitter there. And then I decided, okay, maybe I just put some white paint on it. So before I painted it, I am now applying some Mod Podge. And it didn't dawn on me that since this side already has all of that glitter, why not just use the back? So off camera, that's what I did. I covered the section, the side that I was already painting, and decided to paint the back and use the back. So now it's painted and dried. I am now going to put down my beads. But before I did that, I'm just separated them up. And I'm going to be using some of the same red paint, diluted a little bit. So I put 1/2 of the bead in a little Ziploc bag, added the paint and then some water. And I'm kind of just dry or whitewashing those. And I did that for the green ones as well. And here I'm just pouring them out on a sheet of napkin and just removing the excess paint. And then drying it, and I did that for both of them and then sat them aside. And now for some more fun stuff. Now this is a sheet of napkin that I got from my napkin exchange. I just did that video on yesterday, so if you have not checked out that video, go ahead and do so now, or after you've done watching this playlist you can watch that one. I'll link that at the end. So I cut out the section that I wanted to use on my napkin. Here I am applying the Mod Podge. And after I applied it to the area that I wanted to cover, I dried that a little bit. Placed it down, make sure that the leaves were evenly placed in the center. And then I took the parchment paper and I'm going to be using the heat press, my little mini heat press, to reactivate the Mod Podge. I just love how this looks. The poinsettia leaves just popping on top of the red. And after that was done, here I am now going to place the beads down. So I took some wood glue as well as the hot glue, and I'm doing one red, one green, one red, one green, and I'll do that until all the little areas have been covered. And then I decided now I needed to add some Mod Podge to the top part. I didn't put any Mod Podge on the napkin because that would have just messed it up. And then I replaced the little metal tag at the top. I took these two ribbons and made a bow, combined them, and these are from Dollar Tree. I had the green one in my stash and the poinsettia one I bought a few weeks ago, and made my bow the way I usually make my bows, which is the awareness, scrunch up in the middle, and then the jute cord to just tie that down. And I did that for both pieces, and then just dovetail the ends and glued them down. I love it. Don't you just love how these colors blend well together? I am so in love with this. And of course, after I was done gluing them on, I looked at it and I still had some of this decal left with the word welcome. I cut that out. I let it soak in some water for about 30 seconds, and I then transferred it, made sure it was evenly placed, and then transferred it, and that was done. So in our first DIY, I'll be making 2 Christmas snowmen. So I measured 2 pieces of wood that I picked up at Home Depot, 15.5 inches for both, and then I sanded that down, just the rough edges. Because the wood was already white, I chose not to repaint. You can repaint if you want to, but I chose to leave it as is. Then I got 2 paint stir. These I had from a few months ago that I got from Walmart. They gave them to me free. So I am measuring 2 pieces. Then I'll cut those and lay them aside. Now, like I said earlier, feel free to use whatever you find at home or if you have things you can repurpose, that is also good. After you have cut and sanded the wood, it's now time to measure the top of the snowman's hat. So I mark and measure 5.5 inches down, and just to measure across to see where I need to start painting from. I am using Waverly matte finish chalk acrylic paint to paint the top of the wood, which will become the snowman's hat. Like I said, you can use whatever you have at home. You may have oil paint, that is also good, but the oil paint will take longer to dry. So if you have a chalk paint or a matte acrylic paint, that will dry quicker. So use whatever you have. Paint the strips of wood and set those aside to dry. Now I am taking the craft felt, 4 strips of probably about 1 inch wide. Glue those together for the snowman's scarf. I just love red. Red is one of my favorite colors, and this red will just pop on top of the white background. So now that the paint on the wood is dry, so what I did, I applied wood glue, a little strip of wood glue, and then some hot glue before I attached that to the wood. So I applied 2 coats of the orange paint to the nose. So off camera, the snowman's eyes were painted because Christine forgot to turn the camera on. So after the paint was all dried, I am now applying coats of Mod Podge just to seal the paint in and give it some sheen. And while you're doing that, I would recommend that you not allow the brush to touch the white part, because it is going to mess that up, because it's going to leave a black mark. So now it's time to decorate our snowman. I went ahead and made a bow from Dollar Tree ribbon and a piece of leaf from Dollar Tree flower, Christmas flower. And I am applying my snowman's scarf. I will be using a little hot glue to hold that in place so it's not so easily movable. You're going to need 3 books of the same size, preferably the same size in thickness, and you're going to need sheets with the words written on, whatever Christmas song or Christmas poem or whatever is related to Christmas that you would like to display on these books. I picked up these 3 books from the dollar store, $1 each, and you can use whatever books you have at home that you would like to repurpose. You're not destroying the books, you're just repurposing them just for this occasion. So I printed out the sheets and I took off one of the book covering just for measurement. I measured the length that I needed and I cut and pasted sheets together so I can get the desired length. I started by wrapping the book with the original cover. I did it for the first book, and then after, as I go along, I realized that it feels much better without the covering, so I removed that off camera. And make sure when you're wrapping the books that the joined section is going to be at the bottom of the book. That's not going to be showing. So after wrapping the books, I decided that I wanted them to have an aged look, so I mixed together a little brown paint and white paint and just make sure that I got the right shade of brown. Applied it along the spine of the book as well as the leaves. I then took my burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I wrapped that around the books just enough to give me a tight bind. I then fold in the edges and secured those ends with some hot glue. I then took some red ribbon, rustic brown from the burlap ribbon, the red ribbon, and the gold. And I think this looks so beautiful. I am loving it. I love the way this turned out. Like I said earlier, I am repurposing these craft sticks that I had used. This DIY was inspired by something I saw at the dollar store. You're going to need 3 sets of 5, and you're going to glue down the ribbon, leaving about a ½ inch space in between the 3 sets of 5 craft sticks. Make a loop at the top and then go up and start gluing the other side. I then took love, peace, and joy signs that I had from last year. I am removing the burlap, I am removing the jute, and I am going to be gluing those on to my craft sticks. At first I thought of painting the red edges a little brighter, but then I decided against that because that would have been just too much. So I decided to leave them as is. So what I am doing, I am gluing them down. I had some leftover decorations and greenery, pine cone, berries. So what I'm doing, I'm just trying to find the right fit to make this decoration. I eventually settled on just a little greenery, just a little red, because there was just too much red happening already. And I just settled on leaving it as minimal as possible. I am loving the bright red of the ribbon, the tone of the craft sticks behind, and that blending in with the love, joy, peace, just framed with a little touch of red at the edges. Well, this is one of Dollar Tree wood frame tin board, and I downloaded these songs from the internet. They were free, and the first one I'm going to use, well, here I'm showing you that I wanted to have a distressed look, so I took a makeup sponge with some diluted antique wax, and that's what I did to the sheet. I printed these Christmas graphics from Creative Fabrica. They were free, and I printed them on the water slide sheet, and then I'm going to cut those out. So I'm measuring because I want to fit that in the space. So I placed it on the board and I used a pencil to just mark where I needed to cut. And then I use a paper cutter and cut that out. And then I'm going to use my glue stick to just glue that down. I applied the disappearing school glue to the back of it. So here we have the first Noel. So I had to separate the words because it just would not fit straight across the board. And then I took some water on a little dish cover, and this is how we do the water slide. And I'm going to soak that in for 30 seconds and allow it to separate itself from the back piece. And then I just dried off the excess water on a piece of paper towel. Place that on there and then just slide the paper from underneath, but you have to make sure that it's not stretching or it's not crimpling up, because that's just gonna spoil the effect. And after you place it down, just use the same paper towel and dry up the excess water. If you want to see how I do this in detail, I'll link a video at the top, and I will also link the paper down below, so if you are interested. I got this from Amazon, and I did the same thing for the Noel. Next, I'm reusing this garland that came from something else. I don't remember quite exactly. I glued both ends together and then glued it at the top. And I just love them. But after I glued them on, I thought that I should have just dusted them with a little white paint. So now I took a piece of this lace ribbon, and that's going to be for the hanger. And I'm gluing that at the back. And then I cut some berries from this pick and glue them in the empty spaces to just fill that up a little bit. And here I decided no, that I needed to add some paint just to dust them a little bit and give them a snowy effect. And that's what I'm doing. And I believe this sign is done. Here it is. Let me know what you think about this one, guys. Which is a picture frame using the song sheet Joy to the World. I got this picture frame from Dollar Tree, which is $1.25. So here I remove the plastic from the frame and back in the insert as well as a glass. The song sheet needed to be cut down, so I use a glass as a template to just mark where I needed to cut and then cut that out using the paper cutter. But if you don't have a paper cutter, of course you can use your scissors. Either will work fine. So now that we have that cut out, I'm now going to replace it. So I flipped it over again using on top of the glass, and I replaced the insert that was there just for added support, and then replaced the backing and just fastened it. Now I went back to my words. I'm going to use the same title of the song, Joy to the World, and I'm going to do the same transfer method. Guys, if you are enjoying the video so far, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, and you can also comment at this point if you like, or you just wait until the end of the video, whichever is better for you. Just leave me a comment nevertheless. I then used a little Mod Podge on a makeup sponge to just seal the word and protect the surface and make sure that it's all good. And now it's done. Now I wanted to give it a little bit more pizzazz, so I found this bow that was already made and just glue that right at the top there. And this is done, guys. Let me know what you think. And this is the first Noel, again using a wooden frame. This is from Dollar Tree, one of their fall decor piece. And then I'm just gonna lift one side, not taking off everything, so I can just move that out of the way while I work. And then I remove the tag from behind. And like I said, we're using the first Noel. So here I'm just measuring, lining up the word to make sure that it fits right in the center. And then I mark it, kind of just use my finger to crease where I needed to put the pencil mark. And then I cut that out using the paper cutter once again. And for some reason I thought that this wasn't dirty enough, so I took the makeup sponge again, just dilute a little of the antique wax and just messing up this one a little bit more. It just looked too white. So once I got that done, it's now ready to glue this in. And this is one of those wood circle that came from a pack of 6. Got this from Walmart. I'd painted that with some Waverly crystal. And then I cut out the word Merry Christmas. And then again use the same water technique, because I'm going to add that there. And now that's done, I'm going to add this to the center. But to raise it off the paper, I'm going to use 3 beads. Just cut those in halves. And then I use a tweezer to hold them while I added some hot glue. Glue those down on 4 corners. However you want to look at it, either sides or corners. Now to protect the surface of the paper, I'm just applying a little Mod Podge, not too much. And because I didn't want it to start soaking in the paper, I dried it with the heat, so I applied the Mod Podge. And now it's time to glue in our centerpiece. Now because looking at it, it still needed something else, I decided to draw on some berry and mistletoe. Don't laugh at my mistletoe drawing. It will look much better once I paint it. So I painted the berries in red and the mistletoe in green using my paint pens. Next, to give it a little definition, I took the makeup sponge again with a little antique wax, diluted that, and just went around the edge to just distress that. And then when that dried, I applied some Mod Podge to seal that as well. And because the frame has a glossy finish, I decided to change the beads. So I'm using some of these that I got from Walmart, two-tone. And I selected 8 of them. And I'm just doing alternate colors. And then I just fasten that back to the back. Well, no, I didn't do that yet. I decided to glue on the inside. So I'm just adding some hot glue to the beads and then glue that in the center. Got that secured, and then I flipped it over and replaced the string. Used the miter shear to just fasten that. And then to add a little bit more two-tone, I took a piece of this jute cord and to just add a little bit more embellishment. Once I got that done, I glued on a little jute bow at the top, and this is done. Let me know what you think. So for this one, I'm using this wood round, and I painted it with just 1 coat of Waverly plaster, and that dried. And now here I am just measuring the song sheet on top of it, make sure that I got the word in the middle. And I'm just going to apply some Mod Podge and just spread it on very thin. And I'm doing it in sections. So I put the top part down and dried that using the heat gun. But as I placed the paper down and was drying it with the heat gun, I realized that it was not sticking. So I just followed the same process. I put the tacky glue down, use a brush and spread it thin. And then use the brayer to smooth it out, and then the heat gun to dry it, and that worked fine. Next, I use a sanding block to sand off the excess. So now we're ready to embellish. So rather than using the antique wax and the makeup sponge to distress the edge, I just decided to use some of this ink and the stencil brush and just went around the edge with the black. And I like the effect that it gave this one. I should have done that for the others. Then after that was done, I selected the graphic that says Happy Birthday Jesus, and I'm cutting that out. And of course this is also water slide decal, so I did the same thing for that one. And here I'm taking this greenery and I cut 2 pieces, and I'm going to embellish the top. I made a bow from red ribbon that I got from Dollar Tree. But before I did that, I flipped it over and I'm going to add some beads. These beads I had in my stash. I just used a piece of the butcher's twine and added those. And then I'm going to glue that at the back. And to keep the hanger from swinging around or moving around, I just added a little hot glue right at the top to keep them in place. And then I flipped it back over, and I'm now gluing on the greenery. And then glue the bow on top of that. And kind of tuck the tails below the greenery so that they're not flying all over the place. And here I'm just trying to find the right size of pine cones to glue those on. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. And I'll be making some ornaments. So I painted the rest of the wood circles that I had, painted those. And when those dried, I cut down the song sheet, glued them on and cut them down. But for these, I wanted them to have that little hanger at the back. So I kind of freehand a little hanger thing and trace that out. Guys, if you are enjoying the video and if you have made it to this far, please go ahead and subscribe if you have not yet done so. And if you are coming over from any of the other channels, welcome. And here I am doing the same thing like I did with the wood round. I'm just distressing the edge. And then I cut out the little hangers and I use my hole punch and punched holes in it. And now I'm using the tacky glue to glue that on at the back. I hope you enjoy budget-friendly content, because budget-friendly content is what you will find on this channel. So I'm gluing on the little hanger piece. And of course, if you don't have hangers, you don't have to worry about creating anything. You can just glue on your string directly to the wood, or you can, if you have a drill, you can drill holes. If you have a punch, you can punch holes. But I just decided to do it this way. Now I'm taking a piece of this buffalo check ribbon, and I'm using that as my hanger. And I found some little pieces of boxwood pick, glued that on in the middle. Made two little bows from the same gingham ribbon, and then the silent night that I had printed out, I only had silent night and it was a little bit too big, so I had to cut it in two. If you're still here, give me a Christmas tree emoji in the comments below. Glued on a little pine cone. Of course, I can't leave my pine cone out. And then for the third one, I got this roll of lace ribbon from a friend of mine. So I'm using that one for this. Use that as a hanger. I'm also going to make a bow with it. I clipped off this little piece of greenery from another pick, and I'm going to use that for this one. Glue that in the middle. Or I glued on the ribbon and then glued on the berry underneath that or above that. I kind of stuck it in between the folds. And then I finished the third one, and for this one I just took the black paint pen and wrote Jesus on there and then finished the embellishment. So I'm taking this piece of scrap wood that I got from the hardware store, and here I painted it both sides and left it to dry for days. So now I'm just measuring 6 inches on one side and 5 inches on the other. And then I'm taking these two rulers from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be painting the top of that with some black Waverly chalk paint in ink. And now it's all dry. I took my pencil and I'm now tracing out the eyes, nose, and the mouth. And if you're not able to draw it freehand, you can find like a template online. There are a lot of images online that are free. You can just download one and use that. And after I drew the eyes and mouth, here I'm taking the same black chalk paint and I'm painting that in, making sure that I was staying within the lines. And then I took the orange paint pen and I'm now painting in the nose. And now that is done, I took a fine tip marker and I'm giving her eyelashes. And then I used the same marker and I gave her eyebrows. She's very stylish. Now that is done, I'm going to be gluing on the tip of the hat. So I'm using some wood glue as well as hot glue and glue that on. And guys, I'm actually making a second snowman. I don't show you that part, but I'm actually doing that one as well. And then I took furniture marker and painted in some buttons and then painted the inside with the black chalk paint. And then before I did anything else, I applied some Mod Podge to just seal all of that. And now I'm taking this ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree and I'm making a bow. So I wrapped it around my fingers a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times, I believe. And this ribbon is very hard to use, so I tried my best, and this is how it worked. And after I did that, I then took the jute cord and just wrapped that around the middle to tie it and secure it. And then snip that off, and then I made some tails. I just took another piece and wrapped that around the middle to cover the jute. And for the tail, I took another piece and just folded that in the middle and then glued it down. Now for further embellishment. Here I am just snipping off little pieces from this glitter fern that came from Dollar Tree, and that's gonna be used at the top. And then I found this leaf from a pick. I thought that that should be the base, so I glued that down. And then this poinsettia that came from another pick that I had from my stash. I think I got this from the 99-cent store a few years ago. So here I'm just using some heat to straighten out the leaves because they were quite curly. And I removed that center piece, and now I'm gluing that down on top of that. And then I glued my bow down and then glued in the pieces of fern. So now I cut a piece of this scarf from the 99-cent store, and I am just dressing up my little snow lady here. This red and black buffalo check scarf is so pretty. I've been using it so much. I do have the black and gray one, but it's not as pretty as this one. Here I am just adding a little hot glue to tack that down. And then I took some berries, and all of this is for added embellishment. You don't necessarily have to do all of this if you don't want to. And then I had some of these little wooden stars that I got from Temu, and to further embellish I just glue down some on top of the buttons. And here is the second one. You'll see more of that in the final reveal. This is a snowman that I had made already. Made it from a scrap wood, and then I painted out the eyes and the mouth that were there originally. And if you notice, the hat was slanted. Now I want it to be straight across, so I'm painting that white area with black Waverly ink paint, and I gave that a very good coat because this paint is pigmented, so it doesn't take more than one coat. And then I took a craft stick and I'm cutting that in half because I didn't have any smaller ones. And then I kind of like how the edge of the one end was kind of rounded, so I took the X-Acto knife and I kind of rounded off the other end just to give it a similar look. And then sanded it down with my sanding block. And now that is done, I took my red crimson and I painted that, just the top part. Gave that 2 coats and allowed that to dry. And now I'm going in with my black paint pen and I'm giving this, painting the eyes, and I'm drawing his mouth, and took the orange paint pen, painted the nose. Now that is done. For further embellishment, I've been using my fleece scarf a lot for the past few days or videos. So I took this piece and I thought, like, let me give him a little jacket kind of thing. So I folded down one end, folded in the bottom end, and then glued that down. And then wrapped it around and did the same thing for the other side. And that small cube was already on there. I decided to leave it because I want him to stand freely. And I'm just slitting a little opening for the fabric to go across the block. And then fold it in the side so that it evens out, overlapping just a little bit. Glue that down. And then I glued on the brim of the hat with some wood glue as well as a little hot glue for instant hold. And I thought of giving him a little bow tie, so I took a piece of the scrap fabric, folded it in two and cut like a V shape to give me a bow tie, and then I glued that down. And Mr. Snowman is all fancy and dandy. I think he's going to church. And to give him buttons, I took some of these gemstones from Dollar Tree. These I had in my stash eons. And I just separated 4 of them and just glued them on. And Mr. Snowman's double-breasted jacket is now complete. I then added some Mod Podge to seal everything. And then for further embellishment on the top of his hat, I cut down 2 little pieces of glitter fern, glued those on. I don't want it too fussy, just a little embellishment. And then took some berries and glued that right there. I'll be using this terracotta flower pot that I had in my stash, and a foam egg from Easter, a mini bead, a cube piece of this flannel scarf, and a bottle cap. So I painted the flower pot and the egg with some white acrylic paint, and now it's all dried. I just cut off a little piece from the egg and glued that on top of the flower pot. And now I'm going to be painting the beads. I'm just using a piece of masking tape as my guide to hold them in place and tape them down, and then I'm going to Mod Podge the bottle cap, and that is just to ensure that the paint stays on when I paint it. I then painted all of these with a good coat of the black chalk paint from Dollar Tree and left those to dry. And then I took up the block and the unpainted side. I glued that down on top of the bottle cap, and that is going to serve as a hat. Next, I cut a strip from the cloth, wrapped that around his neck and glued it down with some hot glue. And then I took the scissors and just slit the ends just to give it some flair. And next I took the black paint pen, and I'm now painting in the eyes and the mouth and his eyebrows. And then I glued on the hat to the side, not directly on top of the head. I wanted it to slant just a little bit. And our little snowman is looking all too cute. And then I glued on the buttons, and those were the half beads that I painted. If you don't have beads, of course you can use your paint or your paint pen and just color that in. And then I found 2 little pieces of poinsettia leaves. I glued that in his hat along with 2 little berries, and our little snowman is done. Let me know what you think about this one, guys. I got this wood round from Temu, and I'm using some nutmeg brown from Apple Barrel with a damp rag, and I'm just wiping that on, and I just want to stain it a little bit. And now it's all dry, so I'm taking this, I got this window cling from the Dollar Tree. My initial thought was that I could just peel off the cling and applied it to the board, but it was too transparent and I didn't like that. So I decided to take some white, I placed it back on the cardboard or on the backing, and then I took some white acrylic paint and just painted only the area that I wanted the snowman to go, because I want to give it that base so it's not transparent. And I'm kind of just eyeballing or gauging how wide I need to spread the paint. And then I made sure it was dry. It still looked a little too pale, so I went in again with a little bit more paint. You notice that little streak to the left? That's where his hand is supposed to be. And when I was satisfied, I then took some Mod Podge and glued it on. And I cut off all of the brown border that was on there. And now that I was satisfied, I took some puffy paint and I'm just going around just the top part of the board to give it the appearance that the snow is dripping down. And this number alphabet pack from Dollar Tree, I'm selecting the letters BRR. It's gonna be brr. They were completely dry. I used my picker and picked those off and just apply them to the board. I didn't want them straight across. I wanted them going slanted to the right, down. And now that was done, I'm now going to secure everything with some Mod Podge, making sure that my finger is not touching the puffy paint that I just applied. I need that to be dried properly. And then I apply the Mod Podge around the little snowman, and I'm going to add some faux snow to that section. Still trying not to smear my puffy paint, I took a little bit of the white paint and a makeup sponge, and I'm just distressing around the edge of this wood round. And I was very careful because I wanted to put the hanger on. So I took a pen and I just kind of marked where I needed to put it, and I just tied the ends of a piece of jute cord and glued that down, and I sat this aside to dry properly. Let me know what you think about this one, guys. And this one is so quick and easy. Do not blink or you're gonna miss it. So I took the foam egg and I'm just cutting off a little piece, and that candle, that pillar candle, I got that from the Dollar Tree, and I'm putting that in here just to give me some height. This fabric is also from Dollar Tree. I had this in my stash. So I'm just measuring the distance that I need to cut, and I glue down the edge with some hot glue. And once I measured that, I'm just folding in one end and gluing that on top of the other, and then using some hot glue to glue it down to keep it in place so it doesn't move around while I'm working. Next, I'm using a piece of this yarn and I'm wrapping that around just to keep it in place or just to tie it. And then I cut off the excess. Next, I took my furniture marker and I'm now going to give the eyes, painting those in. And then I took the orange paint pen and painted in the nose. And now I'm drawing the mouth. To follow me on social media, you can scan my QR code or check my description box for my Linktree address. I took a smaller marker and just painting in the curves at the corners of the mouth. And again, using my same white chalk pen or paint pen from Dollar Tree, but I don't know why I went to that again because it doesn't work. So I'm just using the tip of the paintbrush with a little white paint to just brighten that up. And the snowman is laughing at me. Why did you go there? Oh, all right. Of course I'm giving him eyebrows, and now I need to get his sash around the waist. So I'm cutting another piece of the fabric, and I'm just gonna fold in the ends and use my finger to crease it. Now you can just wrap it and cross the two ends over each other, or you can tie it. I felt like tying it, so that's what I did. And then I'm just using the hot glue to tack it down. And then took the fine tip marker and painted in some buttons. Now I wanted to secure or to seal the paint on the glass, so I went over that with some Mod Podge. At first I thought of just doing the front, the face, but then I went further and did the back as well. And then took some of the berries, glue that on the band, and this is done, guys. Using this cathedral frame and this napkin, just removing the metal piece that was glued onto the window frame. Next, I painted the window with Waverly chalk paint in mineral and the circle with plaster. But then the mineral was too plain, so I went in with some plaster at the bottom part And here I'm taking a little of that plaster with a dry chippy brush and I'm distressing this a little bit. So now I'm going in with a napkin. I just use the paintbrush with a little water on the tip of it to just tear that. And I'm taking off the Merry Christmas section. Next, I remove the back ply and use some Mod Podge to the area. Spread it thin and then place the napkin over that. And then use the brush to just smooth out the corners or the edges. And then I dried it a little bit. I like to use just small amounts of Mod Podge on the napkin because for me, if I use too much, it bubbles. So rather than using a heat press, I'm just using the heat gun. And then to distress that just a little bit more, I took the makeup sponge and I'm using the same plaster and just dabbing that around the edges. And now I'm replacing the string for hanging. I took some beads, red natural, and I'm using the same piece of string that I removed. Tied it at the back and glued it down. This wreath I got in a bag from my thrift store and I selected this one. They were already made up and glued that on there. And I thought it needed something else, so I took a piece of this two-tone jute cord from Dollar Tree and I'm just gluing that right above that white section. And this is done, guys. This is a believe sign from the Dollar Tree. And I am going to remove the tag as well as the top part that has the word believe on there. So here I'm taking a little piece of masking tape and I'm just going to cover the inside area that I do not want to get paint on. I then took some chalk paint in plaster and diluted that. Don't ask me why I did that, but I did. And I'm going to paint the frame. But before I did that, I'm just sanding it down to prep it for painting. And because this is pressed MDF board, it needed to be painted undiluted. Now that is done, I set that aside. So now for the top part, paint the believe with some apple barrel hot rod red. So I still had a little paint left, so I decided to just use that as the base coat. So now I'm going over with the red paint. And then I set that aside and now I'm now returning to the box. Now when I put this on here, I did not like how it looked. So I decided to take the furniture marker and just highlight the edges, outside part of the word in black. And it was around this point that I decided that still not liking this. After I placed it on the box, it was looking a little too dark, so I decided to change course. So this is where my DIY turned into two DIYs. So I took this calendar sheet from the Dollar Tree, from that calendar that you saw me with earlier, and I'm only going to use a section that says Season's Greetings. So I cut that down using the paper cutter, and of course I cut it too short, so I had to make amends. So I'm taking that little piece and gluing that back in there. Started with one end and then just worked my way down to the other end. And then I just used the brayer to just smooth that out and make sure that no air bubbles didn't get caught underneath. Here I'm taking some of these little snowmen from Dollar Tree and one of these red truck ornaments, and I'm painting the snowman and then I took the black paint pen and I'm coloring in his hat. And then I took the pen now and giving him some eyes and mouth. And then took the orange paint pen and painted his little carrot nose. And then I have a buffalo flannel scarf. I cut two little strips from that. And then I just wrapped that around his neck and glued it down. Now guys, aren't they adorable? Love them. Now back to the box. I am now applying some Mod Podge over the edges just to seal everything in. I then flipped it over and added a piece of jute for hanging. I then flipped it back over, and now it's time to embellish. And because I wanted it to have like not lying flat on the surface, I glued down 2 little wooden beads to the back of the wheels and then glued on the snowman. And I'm now realizing that one of my snowmen doesn't have any buttons, but I'll add those later on. And then I took a bow that I made from gingham ribbon from Dollar Tree and just glued that right there. And that's it for this one, guys. Now this is where I said this became a DIY by itself. As you can see, the frame is now black. I painted that off camera because I didn't like the white anymore. Now this is a piece of fabric that came in a pack from Dollar Tree, and I am going to use that to cover the frame. I took the roller cutter and I cut the 4 strips, and now I'm using some fix-it-all glue, permanent glue, to just glue on the strips. And I'm making sure that I line it up with the border where the word falls. Then I flip that over and use the glue again. It did not stay immediately, so I had to go in with a little hot glue for immediate hold. And here it is with all 4 sides covered. I then took a piece of jute, burning off the little fuzzies as usual, and then knotted the 2 ends, flipped that over and glued it down. And then I cut 2 small pieces of the cloth and used that to cover the knotted ends. And this is done, guys. This is one of Dollar Tree's little snowman and some yarn. And I'm going to remove the tinsel. So I want to pause here to just tell my subscribers, thank you so much for your support. And guys, if this is your first time, welcome. I'm so happy you decided to click on my video. I hope you enjoy budget-friendly content like this one, and be sure to stick around for lots more. Alright, so now that I've removed the tinsel, this is what it looks like. And I'm starting with this Chanel yarn. It is very thin, so I'm starting at the very bottom, and I'm applying a lot of hot glue just to make sure that I have this all secured. I'm not going to let you sit and watch me do all of this. I'm just showing you the beginning process. And then once you wrap the first layer, you just go around and touch all of those little frames with a little hot glue and make sure that the yarn is laying flat. And you keep going all the way around until you get to the top. And this is our first layer. And then I wrapped again and got the second layer. I just cut a small piece from fleece scarf that I purchased from my 99-cent store, and I'll be using that for his hat. So I'm just gluing that right on top of the yarn. And remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That really means the world to us. So now that I'm done with his hat, I took another piece of the Chanel yarn and wrapped that little piece that was peeking out from the corner of the hat. So now it's time to add his eyes and nose. I'm reusing the ones that I took off from the original snowman. And I'm gluing them in place. And then I replaced his buttons. And he's already looking cute. Let me know what you think about my little snowman. He's adorable. So I'm just gluing the scarf down so it doesn't fly all over the place when he's outside in the wind. I decided to replace the little poinsettia on his hat. And my little snowman is done. Super cute! And here I am now taking the fabric, and what I did, I placed it down on top of that little trim on the hat, and I'm using the pencil to just make a marking so I can cut that out, just like I did for the scarf. And once I did that, I took some Mod Podge and I'm going to apply that and then put the fabric down. I did not have enough going all the way across, so I had to make up using the scrap that was remaining. I put a piece of parchment paper over that and used the heat press to press it down to reactivate that Mod Podge. And here I'm just trying to line up the fabric so that I kind of get it going in the same direction. Now to get a little curve around that corner or that piece hanging there, I had to snip off a little piece and then put that down. And once I did place them down, dry them with the Mod Podge and the heat press and all of that, I'm now taking the scissors and removing the excess. But to give me a little help, I use a sanding block to sand it down a little bit first, and then the detail scissors to trim off what was left. Next, I'm just applying some Mod Podge to the surface, and that's to seal the cloth in. Dried it a little bit with the heat gun and then put the parchment paper and the heat press over that for extra sealant. Now I'm going in with a little piece of this yarn from Dollar Tree for the pom-pom on the hat, and I'm using both hot glue and some tacky glue, going all the way around, just wrapping around until I get to the center. Next, I took my black pen and I'm giving her eyes, and her eyes are closed. And then some eyelashes using this fine tip black ink pen. And then I'm drawing in the mouth. And now I'm going in with a fine tip marker, a Sharpie, and just brightening those. And she's very pleased with life. See that her eyes are closed, and that smile, can't beat that. And I took a little pink paint, this is Cameo Pink, and gave her some rosy cheeks. And then I took the black Sharpie again and drew some buttons, but I gave them a heart shape and painted it in with some red paint. And because I wanted this to hang, I gave her a little hanging loop at the back, and this is done, guys. And here we are for the final reveal. 30 Christmas DIYs inspiration. Since I started my channel 3 years ago, you may have noticed some old ones as well as some recent ones. And if you would like to see the complete tutorial on some of these, I will leave you to watch the final reveal. Some of them were already shown at the end of those DIYs, but nevertheless, please enjoy the remaining. I will link a playlist at the end of this video that says Christmas projects. You can check that and you will see all of my Christmas videos that I've completed and uploaded so far. And stick around for the end for more information. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope you were inspired to recreate some of these for the Christmas season. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you love budget-friendly content like this, I would suggest that you subscribe and hit that notification bell as well, so you're not missing any of my recent uploads. And don't forget to like, share, and leave me a comment down below so I know that you have enjoyed the content. So take care, my friends, until my next one. Bye.